Hey guys, this is Tombox, and let's get straight to business. NAWCQ is coming up, and the Infinite Forbidden is going to be legal for that event. Not only is it day one of the cards being legal, and people are going to be scavenging for these cards, it's a bit of the Wild West because the format isn't solved, which gives the best chance for people playing rogue decks as well. Regardless, today I'm going to be helping you guys with some card choices based off of OCG card performance in their WCQ. In this video, I'm going to give you guys a list of trending cards that are likely going to see play and why they're being played. Hopefully this video will help you out with your practice, up your chances of making day 2, and maybe even make top cut. Before I jump in, check out MST.TV. We got a sale alert. This is the summer sale that we have once a year for all of our tournament essentials. So for all of the Carbon Series sleeves, the whites, the blacks, the pinks, you guys love the shuffle feel of them because they feel like old school PC whites, then you guys gotta check them out and you can pick up at a discount. So check it out. And also we put the fire sleeves, the Heart Ablaze sleeves on sale. It is a hot summer and it is also in a very hot place this year for the major tournament, so check out the Heart Ablaze sleeve. They are also on sale if you guys want to get this stuff before the sale ends and you want it to arrive basically before you go to the next big tournament. July 5th is probably your best date, and that's probably the last date that you have to order to get the best chance of getting your goods before you go to the next big event. So check it out at MST.TV for the summer sale, the once a year summer sale. Check out MST.TV, and let's get down to the list. Card number 1 is going to be Droll and Lockb. Likely this card is going to shift from the side deck into the main deck because Fiendsmith exists. Because if people are going to be starting off their package with a search from the Fiendsmith Engraver being sent to the graveyard and then adding the Fiendsmith Tract into hand, if you hit them with Droll, it's just all that more powerful. If they're going to be blending two engines together and both engines require some level of searching, then it's definitely going to be very impactful because you're going to be cutting off either both engines thanks to the way that these decks work together. So looking at some of the decks here, we have Fiendsmith Snake Eye. It's really effective because both engines require searching. If you start with one, you might not be able to resolve either, so that's pretty painful. Now Snake Eyes was already able to play around it previously, so they never really had too much of an issue, but Bell Fiendsmith, that's going to hurt because they do have a lot of searches. A lot of the normal summons also trigger out searches, and that's where it starts to get a bit more painful, especially if they go with like Dark Beckoning Beast as one of their starting play. A lot of people are trying to work around it. It is a little bit difficult, and typically if you are playing a hand trap heavy format, getting hit by Droll plus another card, it usually just kills your entire turn. Tenpai used to be decent against them, but it's definitely kind of reduced because Genroku is going to be part of the format, so they can start off with a draw phase search, and once they do a draw phase search, they don't really care about half the things that you do, and yeah, it can get pretty nasty, I would say. Brandon, they never cared. White Forest, I mean, there's White Forest Horus, which is probably one of the more popular variants in OCG right now, but there's also like Centurion White Forest, there's also Toy White Forest, there's also a hybrid of all of them. It can get painful for some of them, but overall, if they're going to be playing the Horus variant, there's a lot less searching to be done. I mean, it does have two search engines in there. One or two of these cards in the White Forest line, one has a draw effect, the other has a search effect. I mean, they can get cut off, but they're not necessarily completely shut down from this. So I'm not putting this as maximum impact for them. Chimera Fiendsmith, it is a complete train wreck if you do hit them with Droll, because if you start off with the Fiendsmith, they are not going to be able to play the Chimera combos at all. There's so much searching involved with that deck, and that's how that deck really kind of relies on just sheer card advantage. Not really going to be the biggest thing. Memento, it's going to be impactful. So Memento originally, without all the new support, had a lot less searching. However, all the new cards do generate additional searches from the fusion play, from the Key Mace to the Thunder Dragon. All of those cards generate searches. Not only that, you also play like Rhoda for the Dark Blade. There's a lot of cards that search, and you hit them with a Droll. It could be a turn-ending play, but if they already have some of these cards already in hand, they're able to pivot out of it. And then there's also Sprite. Sprite is mainly because I've seen this deck becoming more and more popular, and it is a pretty popular choice going in. And because they can blend it with the Totally Awesome, with the Mirror Mage from Ice Barrier, it is still a very powerful deck. Because they're able to kind of start their play with Sprite Red, they can negate the Droll. but that also makes them more susceptible to big stuff like Nibiru and all those other really big cards that could just blow out their entire field. So it's a bit of a give and take, but you know, anything that adds a search package increases Droll's impact within the format. So that's the rundown. Next card is Dark Ruler No More. One of the shifts in OCG to play this card is because a lot of people are jumping away from playing DDD Wave High King Caesar into playing Fiendsmith Desiree to negate cards on the field, which is crazy because Desiree is very powerful. Even with the standard Fiendsmith package that you would shove in with the Tractus and the regular Fiendsmith, if you start off with the Fiendsmith card, like Fiendsmith Engraver, you can get there. It's very easy to actually summon it out, and at that point, the imperms become easier for you to handle, and this particular card loses a little bit harder to Nibiru, whereas DDD Wave High King Caesar, on the other hand, well, that particular card, you know, answers Nibiru, but kinda just loses to evenly match. So people are just opting to kind of change it around these days. So looking at, you know, what's good, what's not. So against Fiendsmith, it's just really, really good because whether it be DDD or whether it be like the Fiendsmith Desiree, you get to turn off the entire board, and people are willing to trade away their battle phase or any ability to do damage just to clear the entire field. And this is no different. Even if they have an Appaloosa, IP, Flambridge, yes, Flambridge is going to be able to generate more monsters, but based off of how people are playing these days, they're able to generate removal that doesn't trigger a lot of these problematic cards. And you know what? It is what it is. And then Snake Eyes, I guess, again, same thing. You get to turn off the entire board. Against Yubel Fiendsmith, you get to turn off the Omni Negate because rank 10 still have the Omni Negate of Verudris. And you get to take away the Soul of Rage. You get to take away the Phantom of Yubel. It just makes life a whole lot easier to follow up with an evenly match and just clear the rest of the field. The whole point is that you need some level of board wipe to follow up if you do play Dark Ruler, so you can stay in the high ground. Tenpai is garbage because you want to kill Tenpai. You don't want to give them an additional turn where they just go for the 10 and then you just lose. Branded, I mean, you can turn off some cards, but I think the first thing you need to answer for that, which is why this is not so effective, is you need to stop the Gimmick Puppet, assuming that the Gimmick Puppet doesn't get banned or the Sanctifier doesn't get banned. White Forest, it's bad at this moment, unless of course they ban Hot Red Dragon King Calamity. But in terms of what they're doing right now, because Hot Red Dragon King Calamity is still available, they're gonna set up some of the nastiest boards. They're gonna go like Blazing Cosmic Dragon plus the Crimson Dragon, and they just do a Hot Red play and you just don't get to play. So it doesn't even matter if you have the card because you can't really respond, which means Droplet is also the other alternative card that people are choosing to play because it does have a faster response time. All right, it's a little bit better. And Memento, not that great because they still have the trap card, and the trap card can still negate all your monster effects, so that part still sucks. But you turn off some of the link monsters that could be getting in the way. And, you know, it's useful up until a certain point, because you also stop like the follow-up of monsters coming out from the graveyard and eventually them leading into a Guardian Chimera blowing up your cards, so it still kills a little bit of the follow-up. And then there's also Appaloosa full combo, you know, that's a very common play, so you're able to turn off all that stuff. And against Sprite, you just turn off their entire board, which is great. So there's a lot of answers for Dark Ruler No More, but you have to have a follow-up. Speaking of board breakers, we have Evenly Matched, and this one's actually a little bit of a puzzle to me because why are people actually choosing to play this? Well, I personally think it's because there's a lack of Omni Negates, but looking into like the OCG format, why are people actually choosing to side this card? And there's a lot of people that are choosing to side it within the OCG WCQ, like their qualifications to play into Worlds. Many people actually have this within like the top cut, and it's kind of strange to see it because they still have Baron. So they don't have a lack of Omni Negate. They have the Magistus level 4 tag out, like contact fuse tuner monster, and they can always pair that with a level 6, which would be the Fiendsmith, giving them an instant Baron de Fleur, which is like crazy. But for us, we don't have it, so I think Evenly Matched might be a little bit more powerful for us here in TCG. And yeah, people obviously are willing to trade away their battle phase for the board wipe. It's paired with, it's just better with another board breaker. Against Fiendsmith, a full board wipe is always gonna feel good, but a lot of people are opting to play Desiree over DDD High Wave King for this reason, like, oh, it can negate your card. And since Evenly requires you to, well, to max out on Evenly, it's gonna require you to try to do that as your first play, or to do one negation and then pair it with the evenly. Or maybe you have evenly forbidden droplet, which also works out really, really well for you. So it's best paired with something else. And I just feel like lots of people are just gonna attempt to make an SP when they hear like, oh, battle phase, oh, before battle phase, I'm gonna use my card effect, push out my monster, and then try to make an SP to minimize the losses on the field. But then again, this is what it is. Against Snake Eye Fiendsmith, it's alright. I mean, they can play around it, and you have to double up or else you get nothing. If it's pure Snake Eyes, I don't think you have an Omnigate left. But your boards are still very, very strong, and not to mention that your graveyard is still loaded. As long as you can keep a fire monster available, it's still going to work out for you. Yubel Fiendsmith, you're losing a lot of cards, but it doesn't work unless you have some way to negate the Omni Negate on the field. So that's also a very limiting factor. Tenpai, they don't care because what are they going to play with? Erratic Seal. Branded, you're going to get locked out before you even get a chance to evenly, but at least it does a little something. White Forest, you're not even going to be able to activate this card. You're going to get locked out, so you better have some way to stop Hot Red at the moment. Fiendsmith, Chimera, they don't care. They just load their graveyard with everything and then just revive everything. Memento, I think this one actually hurts a lot because it kind of dumbs down whatever you have on the field, and you lose that negation in the back as well. So there's a lot. And then for Sprite, it's good. If you can turn off the first negation, you can basically use it and just wipe the entire field, which is also decent. So far, everything has been bad against Tenpai, but there's one card that's going to be very good against Tenpai, and thanks to Fiendsmith, everyone's going to have access to it, or most people will have access to it if they can get to a rank 6, which is Rise to Full Height. This card has been rising in terms of a trend because Beatrice can just dump it into the graveyard, and Tenpai can't do maximum damage. Against every other deck, it's going to be complete garbage because you're just kind of not killing your opponent at this point. But against Tenpai, you get to buy a full turn against them by simply making a Beatrice, by making a card that doesn't affect your opponent, that's stuck in the graveyard. Target one of your own cards, get rid of it, target an SP, banish your own SP. I don't know, you do whatever you want, and then now they can't deal damage to you. Their battle phase can't even declare the attack. It's almost like a searchable threatening roar that doesn't need to be played on the field, which is why it's super annoying. Of course, this card is going to be a 1-up in the side deck, but it is that good to the point where you basically see it in every single deck that plays Fiendsmith because it is the answer to Tenpai, and it's like a guaranteed answer. It's very, very hard for them to kind of counter it, and for them to counter it, they have to chain or immediately activate a DD Crow before the turn passes back. That's like the limitation, which is why it is super, super good. And also the rise of DD Crow is going to be also a thing because we've seen some main deck DD Crows in OCG, and yeah, this is a crazy, crazy good card against Tenpai. Then there's the Bestial package. Likely we're going to see this package be played a lot more. I think you're going to see it at least in the side. Some people are going to choose the main deck it in OCG. There are a couple people choosing the main deck this over DD Crow, which is a bit strange, but that's how dominant Fiendsmith is on their side. Well, they obviously have more cards than we do, but in terms of like the introduction of Infinite Forbidden, we get White Forest and Fiendsmith, and those are both light base, and being able to remove them from the graveyard is also going to be important because they do have graveyard-esque effects in there. Chimera can remove their revival targets like Diabelze, which is a huge one because Diabelze just puts you under anti-spell. Well, a pseudo anti-spell. Remember, your regular spells and traps can still activate, your continuous can still activate, field spells can still just immediately activate. It's your quick plays, your trap cards, those ones can't. It's actually a really big deal if you think about it, because most of your negation cards, like the Forbidden Chalice, Droplets, Imperm, all of those negation cards, they immediately stop working in the hand, and that part really sucks. But that aside, Branded, you can stop the Gimmick Puppet Log, it's good against Rogue, and DD Crow is a good alternative if you want something a bit more generic, if you need to hit spells and traps as well, which is why some people opted to play DD Crow instead, because, well, DD Crow can hit spells and traps. So the 5 cards mentioned previously are likely going to have some level of impact based off of OCG performance, and you can try to adjust your main deck or side deck or even your hand trap ratio based on that information. Just try it out to see how you like it and see if it does fare well for you. But there's also one more card I'm going to throw in there because it's just kind of piquing a lot of people's attention or their interest. It's going to be Mulch Army Perulia. I honestly don't know if people are going to play this card in TCG. Let's take a look at the statistics of this card. Remember, this card is the pseudo new Max C, but it's not really a Max C because it only draws cards based off of the summons from the hand, the normal or special summons, which means really good against Floowandereeze. Floowandereeze, with this card existing, is not gonna feel very good because you normal summon out Rabina, if you can summon out all your birds, that's like 5 summons at the very least, and you have additional summons that you can throw in there too with the other bird, the Simorgh bird of perfection. Yeah, that's like 6 draws. That's a whole new hand that you get to play with, and that's gonna be able to dig for almost every single board breaker available. So not sure how that feels. But if you look at the other decks, let's start with Fiendsmith. Fiendsmith doesn't really have any summons from the hand. You get Fiendsmith in graveyard, you ditch it, you add Tract, play Tract, add Lori. Lori gets ditched in the graveyard, it summons from graveyard, and everything now is not coming from the hand. Okay, so we got that clear. That means you have to preemptively activate this first to even have the chance to get the draw from the normal summon, which kind of feels like Master Duel, right? People just shotgun the Max C. Similar deal here. You're just throwing this into the graveyard to adjust how your opponent plays. I mean, they can technically throw an Ash on it, okay? But if you have a second copy, you can throw another copy and just like, oh, hey, do you want to summon? You might be able to buy turns with this, because if you look at it, against Snake Eyes, if they go Ash into Poplar into Witch, that's 3 draws, and I don't think they summon from the hand anymore at this point. I mean, they technically can if they have like 1-for-1 to kind of push a card out. No, because the 1-for-1 doesn't even count unless it's summoning from hand, which is stupid. Why would you play into that particular play? So it's about 3 draws. Against Tenpai, you get to summon 1 from, I guess, your Pydra, your... yeah. It might be 3 max if you're playing Dora Dora. Or Dori. I don't know what that dragon is called. But you could draw 3 cards. Against Sprite, okay, you draw 5 cards. You can draw more than 5 cards if they go like somehow just full ham with that particular deck. Bell, I think you get about 3 draws if you go from like Beckoning Beast, or Beckoning Beast Samsara. And what's the additional summon there? Like, it's like 3 draws max, I think. It's just, oh, of course, there's Gravestormer. Gravestormer was going to be a 3rd one. So certain decks, you're going to be able to get additional draws, but are the 3 draws worth having this card? What if your opponent plays around it? That's the big limitation, and that's probably the big question, whether or not it's going to be good. I think this one deserves more testing before I can truly say if this card is going to be good or not. But hey, this is a card that a lot of people are paying attention to because we don't have Max C, and is this a decent replacement? It could be. It could be. I mean, against like some of the other decks, it's just really good. But so many decks right now, they summon from the deck, and that's one of the parts that create a bit of a limitation on how useful this card can be. So I'd like to hear your opinion of whether or not you would choose to play Mulch Army Parulia in your deck if you had the chance to play it. Let me know down in the comment section, and if you guys have any other card suggestions, leave it down in the comment section of what your testing results are so that we can help, well, everyone prepare for their chance at WCQ. And that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button, hit subscribe, ding that notification bell. I've got a lot of post info content planned for the coming weeks, and yeah, I'm really excited. And I'm gonna be commentating at the event, so hopefully this stuff really helps you out and maybe earn you a seat at the feature table. And until next time, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV and check out MSTmerch.com for the summer sale, and I'll see you all in the next one.